All right, what's going on? And welcome back to another episode of the Wired Sound Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, 9B49.ETH. He's been absolutely crushing the DJ game, been traveling all around. Originally a DC Beast DJ, now in Miami. And we're just going to get into it today on DJ life, what he's been up to, and just chat it up. All right, so how you been, man?
Let's go, man. I'm a Florida man now. This is crazy. I never thought the day would come.
Yeah, it's a big transition, right? Moving from a different state just to go after the DJ dream.
Yeah, well, just tell the audience about yourself a little bit. You've grown up here, or how long have you been here now?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised here, so I love seeing how Miami and South Florida has changed, especially with the DJ world. It's like I feel like it's becoming the new LA of the industry. But yeah, so what have you been noticing as far as like DJ transition from DC to Miami?
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel like I'm at a point right now where I'm very like production focused. So I feel a lot lighter down in Miami. I spent 26 years in DC. That's home forever, and my family's still there, and all my friends. But coming down to Miami, like I really just filled up my little car and everything that was in it. That was really it. And so I have like less clothes, I got less dishes to do, and just, a clean workspace to just go in. And I think it's funny, you guys have had some really great guests on already. And I think I heard, Jake Shore talking about like hitting that point in his career where, I don't need to go out and network so much. I don't need to be up till 4 a.m. trying to shake hands and kiss babies. Like, I really just need to be focusing on my craft. And so I feel like Miami, as funny as it sounds, has kind of given me that space. And,
okay. Yeah, it's like the opposite of what you would expect from the Miami transition. But that's awesome. I mean, so I have mixed feelings on like the networking going out thing, right? I feel like my career might be further along as far as like playing DJ gigs with like the industry players. You know how it's like gets a little political at the top. That's what you start to realize.
It's very political.
Even if you hit those streams and you hit those accolades that you're like that guy's crushing it or that girl's crushing it, you still need to like kind of grease the elbows and make sure that the industry gives you that little check mark. So that's a little right. It's a little bit weird.
I think like the validation aspect of being an artist right now is very complicated, and it always has been. And I think that's kind of what makes an artist is like that pursuit of perfection and constantly, being meticulous with yourself and being your worst critic. Like I feel as though that's natural. Like that's a part of it. It's the double-edged sword of taking this route in life. So it's there's definitely a lot of uncertainty whenever making a big move.
Do you feel like you've made it, like moving to Miami, becoming a DJ full time? Like I'm always questioning myself. I'm like, have I made it yet? Is this what making it is? Like,
I don't think you ever like make it. You have to keep making it. Like this industry is very much. What have you done for me lately? I have
crazy, right?
I got a background in sales, and I remember like having my first big quarter and being like, I'm a hot shot here. I'm like 23 years old at my company, and then very quickly you realize like, it's back to zero now. Like you got to do this again, and you got to pump out another banger. You have to have another viral content piece. You have to put together another tour. It's very continuous, and I think sustainability
it can be a little draining because there is like no shut off. There's no vacation time. Have you taken any vacations recently?
I actually did, but I'll say I think like
you stressing the whole time.
Vacation's like different now because I feel it's very inspiring. Like it's almost like a good time to like refresh. And like I went to France with my mom.
That's awesome.
We got to celebrate her birthday, visit some family, and the whole time I was like just digging for samples, and like we went into multiple different record shops just so I could sort of check out like even the vinyl artwork is crazy in some of these older pieces that have been put out there. So,
yeah. So you can write that off as a marketing research trip with the IRS, right? If they're watching. That was not a real vacation to France. It was marketing research. That's awesome though. Yeah, I always find myself, even when I'm on vacation, like I want to write a little bit, or this like I got a cool vibe from here. I would love to just sit down and produce some music. I talked about that on a recent episode, how I'm a very on the go producer. Like I don't produce that well when I'm just sitting in the studio. instead like airplanes, all that stuff. Do you have that experience too, or do you do better like in a studio environment?
I'm very much like you. I need noise. I need that sort of like. There's a hilarious. I don't even think it's Rick and Morty. I think it's Solar Opposites. It's like a TV show on Adult Swim, but they have an episode called like the Man Cave, like a man cave, and I think there's something to that where it's like when there's all these distractions, like that's when I like kind of like hone in on my like safe space. I get to work. I kind of like dial in, and so it's like when there's stuff going on, that's like when I strangely like want to lock in the most. And I feel like kind of back to that point with like Miami, it's like, oh, there's so much going on. It kind of makes me feel like I don't need to be out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, so the going out and networking thing, like it's funny because we got you on this podcast, right? I met you twice, and you were saying before it's the first time I can actually hear you and like hear what you're saying, because that's how it is. But I will say, if I didn't make that in-person connection, I don't know if we'd be sitting here doing the podcast. It's, I knew who you were. I'm like, this guy's awesome. It's gonna be great to get him on the podcast and chop it up. And so like, there is something to be said about going out in person and networking with people because it's just a different vibe, right?
Yeah, you got me there. Shit, that's twice now. For those of you who don't know, we first met Ryan back in DC, and at a spot he's a resident at. I'd played a number of times, and then I caught him opening for Sam Felt, and we just got to kind of like kick it, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was surprising to me that you were with the Sam Felt crew because I know they're very like progressive house, and like you play a little bit harder, right? Is that?
I definitely, I'm self-diagnosed ADD, DJ, producer, all of that. I love, like today, for example, I spent probably like 7 or 8 hours in the studio, and I probably spent 3 hours on a house track, 3 hours on a bass track, and like an hour on some D&B shit. And so, to your point, I'm really not doing a good job at picking a lane.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, listen, I find that tough also. I have mixed feelings because I've had relatively successful records that are like bass house and then a successful record that's like a more progressive house leaning one. And I'm like, do I have to stick to this sound now because this is like what people know me as? And I will say, I think some of the more successful artists, a lot of them, they do stick to one lane and they're like, that's their sound. That's what I can show up to their set and expect. So, I'm leaning personally more into like progressive house, but you got to find what you love. You got to kind of experiment with it a little bit and then be like, okay, I'm just going to lean into this one because this is the one I love. And then just like, start a side project for the hard techno.
I just think like it wouldn't be authentically me if I was just doing one thing because my mind is never just on one thing. And, I think that there are some shortcomings to that. I know, when you're multitasking, you're not doing as well at that one thing as you could be. And so I struggle with that internally a lot. Mm-hmm. But, I think what has been my guiding light is like, are the people around me good and is the music good? And that can mean a number of different things from the music perspective, but I think the people one is pretty straightforward. Like, if you have a group who are looking out for each other, who are spreading good, positive vibes, like Sam Felt's crew, for example, like didn't know them very well before that.
Yeah, how'd you make the intro with them? Because I was like, shoot, I should have hit them up and tried to link.
Shout out to my amazing videographer, John Nab. He's been holding down the fort. Like, I feel like most DJs have like a girlfriend or a fiance.
You got your videographer.
I got my boy Nab. So shout out Nab that shot. He's really best in class. He's done amazing work with Chasing Status, Zed's Dead, and funny enough, he's been my sort of ace in the hole for the last 2 years.
So he was like, I'm videoing for Sam. You should come out and hang with us.
Exactly.
That's
so we
great.
live together in Miami, and so I've gotten to meet a bunch of the homies from that crew in the past, but not really like Sam himself. So that was really cool.
Yeah, he's an absolute legend. So that's cool. It was fun to see his set too, and like see the kind of energy and what he was playing. I'm always curious because I've supported for various artists, like how they're gonna approach it, especially like Sam Felt, who releases a little bit more of like the chiller melodic house stuff. Are they gonna play hard, or are they gonna play their like melodic house chill stuff? Like that's always, I don't know, it's always on my mind whenever I'm about to support for someone like that.
I think like the biggest thing is trying to have a sustainable career as an artist. Mm-hmm. And if you're ever going to go into something and be like, this is how I'm going to do it, I don't care what other people think, and I think there's a lot of good that can come out of it, but if you want to make it in the long run, like, you do have to be aware of
the environment
what's going on.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think there's a lot of different ways to go about being a sustainable artist, and it's there's a million different ways to go about it, but you need to find like 3 or 4 things. And like, I would love to actually ask you.
Yeah, of course.
You have your hand in a lot of different pots, in the sense of you're running different events. You're in charge of this amazing studio here. You're also a touring artist yourself. You're producing great tracks. Mm-hmm. Like, how are you sort of going about making it so you can pay your bills, so you can,
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the touring level where that's definitely most of my income is coming in from touring. My royalties, honestly, I have mixed feelings about staying independent as an artist, because on one hand, right, you're gonna collect more money. On the other hand, you might not get as much exposure. And when I say independent, I mean like getting a publishing deal, getting a 360 record label deal, which means like a record label fully representing you. They're going to collect all the royalties. A lot of times you get screwed in those kind of deals. And I never, I wouldn't say I've never been approached, but all of the deals I've done with major labels have been single deals. Yeah. So I've been able to maintain control. And I will say like money wise, I've seen that the records that have made me the most money have been my independent releases over time.
You brought up a great sort of point. I feel like in order to get those sort of deals, I feel like you have to be in that lane. Like, I think that these record labels are, and of course, I don't mean to generalize all of them, but they want consistency. They want to know what they're getting. And I think as an artist, it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to ensure, like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to pump out 5 bangers this week, and next week I'm going to make 5 content reels that are going to be amazing, and I'm going to have all these great branding ideas that are going to just flow naturally into this project. And it's like, I think a lot of what I'm realizing as an artist is I don't really control what's coming out of me in the studio. A lot of it is guessing and checking, or trying something out and seeing if it fits. And, sometimes you go in with a vision and it comes out totally differently. And so I think that's where I could see myself struggling going down that route.
You're saying to try and get a label on board that has these expectations of you.
And I'd be like lying to you if I said like, oh, I wouldn't want that. But I've seen artists who are extremely talented, and like a good friend of mine, Andras, he's signed with Helix Records. Okay. They're an amazing organization that's going to catapult him. And he was able to find that sort of perfect blend of
someone that fits with him,
what he's doing well and what they can help with.
Yeah, I mean, and so there's something to be said about like also more independent labels versus major labels. Like, I do a lot with Hexagon. I don't have an exclusive deal with them, but that's Don Diablo's label.
And since by the way, that's fire. Let's go.
But since it's run by Don Diablo, it's much more artist friendly. It's the splits. When I say splits, like the amount that the artist retains is like 50-50, which is kind of unheard of with record labels. A lot of times they want like 70%, 80% of the cut, because they're looking at you as like an investment, and they're putting out their resources into that investment. But so I think there's both to be said about going independent versus signing with a major. Same with publishing. I've definitely made a good chunk of change from my publishing over the years, from like syncs and stuff like that. And if I had signed that publishing deal where you get like $40K up front, say, they take that money back. Like, people think a publishing deal, oh, I signed a $40K deal, that's my money. That's really not how it works. You get like that $40K up front, and then they're expecting that to be paid back off of, say, your 10% that they gave you over time. So a lot of artists get screwed with those kind of deals.
I saw some crazy clips from a podcast interview John Bellion did.
Oh, yeah, I love John Bellion.
Yeah, he sings Good Things Fall Apart, the amazing Millennium track, and he broke down how the group representing him, or had signed him basically, put him in this position where they gave him all this money up front, and then they just kind of squeezed him and sent him on the road. And it's like, you don't pick your own schedule anymore. You don't pick, hey, the food has to be this way because you have to hit this minimum. And, you might not even want the food. It might get thrown out, but that's a part of your deal.
I mean, I don't think that's like a problem in the EDM world. That's much more like a pop music world problem. I think in EDM it's much more just like single releases, and then the label expectation. I mean, luckily labels are always they're backing off a little bit more now that artists have kind of wisened up to like what a good deal is and what a bad deal is. But you gotta always be aware. I mean, I've signed some deals where I'm like, why did I do that? I would have made a good amount of money if I didn't sign that deal.
Yeah.
So you gotta just always be on your feet. All right, so direction wise, you're kind of all over the place. Sound, like trying to find where your sound is.
I think like there are. I'm gonna like look back at this video and like be kicking myself, but I'm really. It's the beautiful thing is, although my head is all over the place, I've been able to start a record label that has a central vision. And so while I'm over here running crazy, doing random dubstep flips or Dirty Cash, Paw Saw, UKG flip. Like, I have my record label with two of my best friends, Jay Park and Pow Pow. We started Higher Vibrations. Mm-hmm. And the whole label is focused on blending rap and hip hop elements with tech house.
Okay.
And so I know at least like that is going to be a consistent in my life. I love tech house. I know sometimes it gets, made fun of.
Yeah,
it's a little
Rep,
mainstream.
yeah.
It gets some bad rep, but it's amazing and it brings people together. And although the higher vibration stuff is going in a great way, I can't step away from my bass family. Like, I have so many deep connections with amazing human beings that have been fostered and developed through music festivals, specifically around bass music. Like,
I mean, bass music community, I feel like it's one of the strongest communities, right?
I couldn't agree anymore. I think that there's something really unique to it. And I think like two festivals, for example, that I went to in my time that have changed like my entire landscape of friends. I went to Cyclops Cove in, I guess, what is that? Is that in Boca?
Oh, yeah. Is that the Sunset Amphitheater?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
So at that festival, I went in with one friend, and she introduced me. Shout out Amanda Broyle. She introduced me to an amazing crew that have not only become my biggest supporters, but are truly some of my best friends. Yeah. And I can say the same thing about Hijinks Music Festival. I can say the same thing about Elements Music Festival. It's just really special. And I'm not saying that house doesn't have that. I think there definitely is still that.
It's a bit clickier.
There's something about being in the pit and handing out sprouts and, people sharing everything in their bag that I think is really unique to the bass community.
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like the house music community is a little bit like the cool kids club, and like it's like the cool kids that like in your high school.
And I'm not cool, so
that's what I feel, because I've been to so many events where I'm like, oh my god, there's like these people here, and everyone's kind of a dick, and I'm like, this sucks. Like and not very inviting and stuff like that, and it kind of feels a little bit like industry. So I should probably check out some bass shows. Maybe it's a bit more of an inviting
DMB
community.
Especially, man. Yeah. They really get down. Let's go.
I'll check it out. Awesome, man. So what do you got coming up show-wise, tour, stuff like that?
I just wrapped up a week in Aspen.
Sick.
I've been teaming up with one of my best friends, D-Rock.
D-Rock?
Yeah, Derek's awesome. He actually got me my first gig opening for Slushy back in like 2018. But Derek and I just did a few shows. We also teamed up with our boys Don Fuego that actually live out there. So the three of us we did a couple shows together in Aspen, and in 2 weeks we'll be at Breckenridge on Friday the 14th, so Valentine's Day, and then on the 15th we'll be at Copper Mountain. So
sick.
That'll be super fun. But before that, we booked Higher Vibrations, our label. We partnered with an amazing venue in DC. Called Zebby's Garden. And yeah, we're bringing in like a little hood politics takeover. We got DJ Susan and Propa coming in.
I've been loving Propa. He's been crushing it.
He's gonna be he's gonna be a household name. I truly believe that. So it's really cool. We're stoked to have them come.
When is the Zebby's Garden?
Yeah, so that's February 8th.
Okay.
So
I'm there this week, January 30th. What is it?
February the days
1st?
Are blended.
Yeah, I'm there on Friday.
Nice.
Yeah, I start to realize, like, I just look at it. It's like, what did I do? I don't even remember where I played last weekend, which is an awesome problem to have. But it just everything just kind of blurs together when you start in the DJ world.
I guess while we're here too, if you or anyone's in Big Sky, Montana, March 1st, playing at Tips up there, and then 2 weeks later we'll be in Richmond with YDG. So
Okay.
that'll be cool. See,
So
like you got.
all right, wait. So you are leaning a little bit more into like the dubstep. No,
It depends on the night.
You're not gonna say.
Well, like it's a good call out, and like honestly I feel like an idiot when I'm talking to professionals, like folks who are either agents or managers or they run a venue. And it's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I don't know everything. And they're like, that's the last thing I want to hear.
Yeah.
But it's like with the house show, like I'm playing 2 shows with the trio team in Charlotte and Charleston.
Okay. Shout out Eric.
Yeah, shout out Eric. He's actually from my hometown. He's a great guy. And we, Charlotte, I know my fans there are much more like bass heavy.
Okay.
You'll see some Pashminas in the crowd. We're going to be going hard. Whereas like that's on Friday. And then on Saturday, it's going to be a totally different set in Charleston where I'm going to be playing a lot more fun mashups, some more high energy house.
Okay.
It's going to be 2 very different sets, and that's like a perfect weekend to me. Getting to scratch kind of both those itches.
Yeah. And I think like what I've noticed with you, like I've heard your name. I can't necessarily place a track that I've heard of, but I've heard your name, and that's a really good thing. You don't always need to be the guy or girl that has like that hit song that everyone knows. Sometimes it's just name recognition.
We'll get there, hopefully.
But I'm not saying you're not. I'm saying that you're definitely headed in the right direction. When you start to hear someone's name a lot, you're like, okay, this person's doing things. They're crushing it. And it can be from social media content. It could be from their sets being killer. Obviously, it can be from music as well. But I just want to say there's different routes to get to that successful DJ level. It doesn't always have to be a hit song. So that's a good thing that I'm hearing.
No,
your
dude,
name
I'm
everywhere.
just playing. That's awesome.
So let's talk about your name, like 9B49.ETH, right?
The ETH is just I believe in crypto.
Okay.
I think that's going to be a long run, and I've staked my flag in the ground. But 9B49 actually, a lot of people don't know this. Before I started the project, I was a part of a duo, and it was just my first name, Kahan, and my little in my fraternity, Kyle. It was just Kahan and Kyle, and I think that's the first time I'd ever like experimented with branding and like trying to put really like an entertaining show on. So we were wearing like space suits. That's kind of where the cowboy hat, space cowboy, kind of like started to form, and we were doing these like ridiculous promo videos for this show that like in hindsight I'm like, I need to be doing more of that. Like we need to be doing all these like funny, silly little like gimmicks to get people educated on when we're playing. And so looking back on that is really funny. That was back in college. I think it was in like 2018. And then Kyle and I had done an event in DC after we had graduated. And that was the first time I had actually done like all the event operations myself and the bookings. And I didn't realize that like you typically have a team to do this stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
So I'm like trying to do all of this while also prepping a set that can kind of like follow up what we did at the Slushy show. And it was just a nightmare of an evening. I just remember being so burnt out and tired, and it just wasn't, it didn't feel rewarding. I felt like I had, booked my friends who were kind of like acting like divas a little bit. I'm like, guys,
where's my rider, you motherfucker?
We're supposed to be homies here. Like you're complaining about not having beer in the green room to me.
Yeah.
I'm going on stage in 5 minutes. I'm like, so it definitely made me kind of take a step back. And then
at least you figured that out early on. You don't want to be on like the event throwing side.
Well, the pandemic hit right then too, and so everything kind of like took a pause, and I wasn't, in hindsight, I wish I had been streaming. I wish I had been, connecting with people online, and I was really just like listening to Couchlands with like my best friends that I lived in my house with.
Yeah.
We were just like ripping, house and dubstep in the crib and just loving it. And then I guess it was when the sort of COVID restrictions were lifting. My buddy Carter Holland, he runs a group in DC called Para Presents.
Okay.
He's like, hey, we want to do our first party back. Would you and Kyle be down? I was like, yo, Kyle, like, let's do it. And he's like, dude, I work at Bloomberg. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't need to be a DJ anymore. Like, it was a good run. And so I was kind of like bummed. I was like, all right, damn, I guess we're done.
Damn, Kyle's slacking.
Kyle's goated. And then, basically my buddy Carter was like, why don't you just do it yourself? and I golfed that morning with my roommate Cheech, and in the bottom right corner I just wrote like 9 before 9, kind of as like a 9 holes before 9 a.m. work thing.
I love it.
The joke started in college, like getting after it early, and it kind of translated to adult life with the golf reference.
Yeah.
But you can apply it to anything.
Have you played a 9-hour DJ set? 12 to 9?
Maybe not.
12 a.m. to 9
Maybe in like
a.m.
a kitchen after like EDC or something. But
we should get that together. What's the longest DJ set you've played?
I just did a 3-hour set at Flash in DC. It's funny enough, I've grown up going to that club. It's an iconic venue in DC.
Is that like the big long room, or is it like kind of like a pretty
it's
long
got like
room?
cool lights around like.
I think I played there like 4 years ago.
Yeah. And
is it 18 plus?
No.
No, oh, never mind.
Different one. But yeah, Flash is very much 21 and up.
Okay.
But I think it's like the closest thing DC has to like a Miami nightclub.
Yeah.
Where you have these like late hours and everyone's just kind of being supportive and positive. And it's funny. It took for me I'd been trying to headline in that room, in their club room there, for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then I moved out of DC, came down
he's
to
Miami. He's a Miami DJ now. Let's get him.
Phone ring. Hey, you want to come up? And so, obviously all good vibes. And it was a really special night. I asked them, instead of just me headlining, can my label actually do a takeover?
Yeah.
And so we booked it out to all the artists kind of like, coming up on our label. And so it was really cool to have a true family affair in DC. And, I know I'm rambling here, but like the most special moment for me was, an hour into the set, I look up and it's like all of these artists who I've been coming up with in the DC scene, the folks who play at every different venue, like it just felt like my like friends and family were in the room.
Yeah, you built that crew and they're there to support, and then
it was special, man. I was like moved to tears almost, like to have, especially a lot of them are my mentors, like people who have taught me Ableton, who have taught me how to be approaching talent buyers, how to be getting my name out there. So that was a really, really special moment for sure.
Awesome, man. Any weird DJ experiences as of late? I had a weird one this weekend, but you go first.
Oh, geez. No, you go first. All
right, so let's see. I was playing in Philly, and girl comes up for a request. I'm trying to think what the song was. I think it was Bad Bunny, of course. It's always Bad Bunny.
Always Bad Bunny.
But I said I already played it. She called me out. She's like, when did you play it? And she was like, you're fucking gaslighting me. So I got called a gaslighting DJ that night. I think
DJ Gaslight.
Yeah, there we go.
Could be onto something.
So gaslighting requests, I don't know. Our DJ's doing it. Could be a thing. I might have done it once or twice, but I'm not proud of it. I don't want to fucking play Bad Bunny, all right?
I know. And that's like the box of chocolates. Like you never know what you're gonna get with the crowd, even if it's
if they know you, obviously you're gonna not get them requests. I had the worst request I ever, not the worst request. This is the best request I ever got, but it made me feel like shit.
Oh,
she requested one of my songs and I didn't have it on my stick.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, that hurts. I'm like, I've never played it because it's like a chiller song. It was Top of the World, me and this guy Mitch Rose. But anyways, a very vocal, like ballady kind of song.
Yeah.
She requested. I'm like, how the fuck do you even know that song? And she's like, you don't have it. You're this guy. And you don't. I'm like, I'm sorry. That one, I just felt like shit.
You just gotta shake that one off. Make sure you have it.
So if you're an artist, always have all of your songs, no matter if they have 5 streams or 10,000 streams. Have those songs prepped. What about you? Any weird DJ experiences that you thought of?
I've dug myself a little bit of a hole, but I'm proud of it. I recently collaborated with 2 DC-based rappers, Oh Goody and Big 57, and we made a remix of their Washington Commanders track.
Okay.
So they have a sweet rap track. It's like an R&B rap style track, and I've turned it into trying to make it like a tech house banger, taking some inspiration from Omnom and Odd Mob, and I think it came out well, but it didn't help that the Birds kind of had their way with my Commanders, and so I definitely got clowned on that video more than I ever have, but definitely worth it, and the left hand's staying up for next season for sure.
All right, there we go. All right, cool. Well, I think we're about to wrap it up. Anything else you got coming up that you want to let people know about?
I started a mentorship program if you're trying to learn how to DJ or produce. reach out to me on Instagram or at the email in my bio, and would love to get you started. Anyone who's trying to get their feet wet, if you want it to be your life, your side hustle, or even if you just want to DJ the afters at your crib, hit me up.
There you go. Yeah, we got to get you in for an academy guest spot. Maybe we'll team up on like a class or something.
We
like
do
that.
it together. I'm in. You count me in, man.
All right. Well, thanks again, man.
Let's go, boss.
I'll see you on the road.
Take care, guys.